everyone. Welcome to Bolters and Banter. I am your host, Tyler, and with me, as seems to be mostly always, is Nick.
And I'm the only one who shows up. I'm the only one who
Yeah.
returns your calls.
Um,
Must be lonely at home, huh?
yeah, we've taken a pretty decent long break. We do apologize about that. I went to Wisconsin, and you went to Canada.
Yes, I went to Canada and then immediately afterwards went to a tournament. So my brain's a little fried.
Yeah. But we're gonna get back into the roll of things here soon. We'll try to get Hunter on for some videos, and I have a special guest coming in for a video hopefully this week coming up.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. But anyways, the topic of this video, I've noticed, and this even applies to me, that Tau tends to be a really common starting army.
I've noticed
Um,
that too. Whenever I go to
so
game stores, I often find people selling off old Tau and they're like, yeah, this is what I started with. I'm glad you noticed that.
and it's so common that there's even memes about it, like like, oh, I'm getting in the Warhammer, oh, I'm getting in the Tau, and and it just spirals. But yeah, so anyways, I've noticed that, and I have some theories as to why Tau is being picked a lot for first starter armies. Um, so we don't really have a we didn't really have a big idea for this video because it's we just got back from vacation. So I figured this would be a short, sweet, quick and easy video just to get something out.
Yeah, it's just
But yeah,
shooting the shit about stuff we find in our local game community and what may be applicable, not only for you guys that are new players, but if you've been around and you notice that there's a lot of people with crisis suits. Maybe digging into why that might be, and maybe it could give us some insight for other people starting.
man, I've never seen a Tau combat patrol in stock. Odd.
Yeah.
So, anyways, if you guys don't know, I started with Tau. It was
Oh,
my
the bias comes this
my
early, huh?
huh?
The bias comes
What?
this
Yeah,
early, huh?
the bias comes this early. Actually, I'm not even really a big fan of Tau, which is funny.
Well,
So
tell us the tale, good sir.
so when I was getting in the Warhammer, right? And this is okay. This brings me to the first point of why I think people choose Tau, or like one of the contributing factors. When I was getting in the Warhammer, the very first time I had heard about it, I thought the shit was stupid, okay? Because my experience of it was, oh, there's these space marines that have shoulder pads that are the size of their torso. Orcs have a funny British accent, and that was like my whole experience with it, and I thought it was stupid, right?
Okay, yeah, you can have opinions. I mean, they're wrong,
But
but you can have opinions.
they're wrong opinions, yes, but I didn't know any better.
I get it. I get
Um,
it. It's the surface
so
level.
right, and then I started, I don't know what happened, but I started watching some war videos, and then I was like, oh damn, this is kind of cool. But I didn't like that. One, everything for the most part was kind of silly because Warhammer just has a degree of silliness to it, and two, everybody sucks because everybody likes to be the good guy for the most part. Sometimes you like to do the evil playthrough or whatever, but generally everybody wants to be the good person.
Yeah,
And
forget any hope and progress because in the grim darkness of the far future, there's only war.
right, but that was kind of a hard shift for me. And I saw the Tau, and I'm like, whoa, these guys, first off, have a pretty tasteful, realistic design. There's a little couple things that are impractical here and there, but like you could definitely see this as something that exists. Um, and not only that, but these guys are nice, and they do like a lot of stuff that our own military does, where like you go to some neutral party and you provide relief, trying to gather support from them and stuff like that. And I think that's why I chose Tau, because it wasn't a hard shift for me to get in the Tau from just not experiencing any Warhammer stuff. It was simple. It was realistic. It wasn't. There wasn't anything super like silly about it. There wasn't a lot of horse heresy lore with it. And it was practical, and it was the good guys. And I think that's why I decided to choose Tau.
Question: are you more of a sci-fi person or a fantasy person?
Oh, I've always been more sci-fi.
Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think so too, because I mean, Space Marines, yeah, everything Warhammer sci-fi, right? But let's take Space Marines as an example. They're sci-fi, but they're sci-fi knights. I mean, the armor is stylized to look knightish for a lot of armies or Space Marine chapters. They all use melee weapons. What's some other good examples?
I mean, they're
orcs
warrior
are
monks in
orcs.
space.
Yeah, orcs are orcs.
Yep.
That's just a fantasy race. Eldari are elves. I think that could be the other thing too, because I like fantasy, but I've never been like big on the fantasy.
Yeah, I think that I think what really draws people into Warhammer in terms of aesthetics is if you come from more of like a fantasy or like almost like future punk sort of thing, where it's the future but there's a lot of fantastical elements in it, kind of like urban fantasy stuff. Then
Yeah.
there's the hard sci-fi where there's numbers and stats and railguns and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Or,
I think that's what it is. Is like Tau is your practical sci-fi, and then everything else in Warhammer is that fantasy sci-fi that you were expressing.
yeah, a lot of gonna throw you with some old school Warhammer lore, IRL lore, which I guess is called
Okay,
history. Um,
which I guess is history, but
yeah,
I'm a chemistry teacher. I don't
shut it.
dabble in that.
Okay, so back in the day, back in the 70s, early 80s, Warhammer Games Workshop, Warhammer was originally a fantasy brand. You may have heard of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. If you've
Yeah, yeah.
played Vermintide or Total War Warhammer, those are set in that same universe.
And
That was
then we
the
got
yeah
we got Warhammer, the old world or whatever, and then
yeah.
Sigmar, and yeah.
Sigmar is a complicated thing, but Old
Uh,
World is a revival of the original fantasy world. The reason why the property is called Warhammer is because the god Sigmar wielded a warhammer as his main weapon. That's a
oh damn.
fantasy logo. So you may be asking, where's the Warhammer in Warhammer 40,000? Well, that's the thing. Warhammer was originally fantasy, but then around the mid 80s, I'd say actually maybe 87, something like that, Games Workshop decided, hey, it'd be funny if we took this fantasy world of Warhammer and we made an alternate universe called Warhammer 40,000 that was set 40,000 years in the future and did some weird things where the dwarves are like some bikers with motorcycles and the orcs have like ramshackle Mad Max vehicles and stuff, and the human Imperium of man that worships Sigmar is there, but it's different, and there's like Space Marines, kind of like from Heinlein Starship Troopers.
Oh, I love
And
that book.
they took a lot of tropes from sci-fi that was popular at the time and put it into their IP and named it Warhammer 40,000. Originally Rogue Trader, which was a little bit more RPG-ish, and somehow the sci-fi setting blew up and is now considered the like flagship thing Games Workshop does. But I think you hit something on the head. Lots of stuff in Warhammer 40,000 is based on fantasy tropes. The Space Marines are very knightly and very warrior monkey. The Eldari are elves, so on and so forth. Even the few hard sci-fi things that are there that are original 40,000 are really the Tyranids and the Tau. And the
And Tyranids are
Tyranids,
also very popular too.
they are extremely popular because their concept is very obvious.
Yeah,
They are,
it's the monsters. That's it.
yeah.
It's alien.
Every sci-fi has some weird bug race that it knows
It
nothing
has a
but
hive
consumption.
mind, and all it does
Yeah.
is eat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. In Star Wars, it's the Geonosians. I guess not eating, but they're a hive mind.
the
In
arachnids from Heinlein.
Yeah, exactly. StarCraft is the Zerg, which I guess is based on Warhammer, but that's a different thing. The Xenomorphs, you know. Their concept is obvious, but if you don't like the alien sort of thing, the feral alien creature part of sci-fi, and you want the
Pew
like
pew,
glorious
mechs
future,
and rail
yeah,
guns and
yeah. How far can humanity go into a golden age in the future? Like
and I,
almost like Star
I
Trek a little bit.
and I think that's
Or
kind of like
Gundam.
what Tau is because they're very humanoid. I mean, they are humanoid.
Yeah.
And I like you don't see them as I mean, me personally, I don't see them as Xenos. Like at just like a first glance, obviously, they're Xenos and
Brother,
kill the Xeno. But like if you look at their models though, right? How many times do you see a face? There's only like a couple models where you actually have the face exposed.
listen, man, that's beginning to sound like some heresy going on. All right,
Okay,
I'm
okay,
just
but I
saying.
mean I mean visually, okay? Other than like the digitigrade legs, oh god, that word's always so hard to say.
They're
They're
humanoid.
they're very human.
Yeah, just like honestly, every Warhammer 40k races except for the Tyranids. I
I
mean,
mean, sure, but like what I'm saying is it's you could see this if they just fixed the legs a little bit, just made them straight and normal and not gross, and they got rid of the hooves. You wouldn't be able to tell that they're aliens.
I mean, yeah, if you look at their Fire Warrior miniatures, they look like some future human stuff that you would see, you know?
Yeah. So
Um,
I think that's the big part about it is like if you're going in the Warhammer, right? Warhammer 40,000, big sci-fi, and you look at everything, a lot of it's fantasy, and you're like, well, that's weird. And then you come across town, and you're like, oh, sweet, here's my fantasy guy, or not my fantasy guys, my sci-fi guys, and they got big fucking mech suits.
yeah, if
So
you think of a war game, you think of tactics of mobile warfare and range combat and shooting, and I think Tau embodied that a lot, not only in lore and flavor, and like in visual perspective, but also in gameplay. And that's something we can talk about a little bit later. But
oh
in,
yeah, in books, I mean, I don't think a lot of new players pay attention to the books, but even like in the books, they do uh the whole, like realistic war pretty well. They have like spy chains and pretty practical defenses and
have
I
you
mean,
did you read Crisis of Faith?
no, but I read a Death Watch book with
Oh,
Tao.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, they do a lot of coordination between almost like different departments almost, and their their way they do warfare is an analyzing the enemy
Hmm.
logically, you know?
And
Don't
I think
just
the other
go in
cool
with a bunch of
part
zeal and fervor.
I think the other cool part that maybe draws in a lot of people is it's like a coalition.
Yeah,
They're
explain
they're
that.
in they're in many ways like the underdogs, right? They are dwarfed by every other power in the galaxy, but they're bringing together any race that will say yes to them. Um, it's got humans in it. It's got the Tau. It's got the Kroot. It's got a lot of sub races, and that was the other cool thing for me too.
Vespids and Demiurge,
Vespids and
yeah.
yeah, and I think that was the other drawing part in for me too. I think just the sum it up, it's very practical and it's not a hard shift from what you might normally have in mind as sci-fi going into Warhammer as opposed to just going straight in the Space Marines,
What if Starfleet was Gundam?
right? I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. I agree with you 100% on if you are looking for a hey, here is a future war game that people play. Every other faction is it's regressed. If
Yeah.
you like the tragedy of being less than you once were and barely being a shadow of the empire that you descend from and always hoping to live up to impossible standards you know you never reach, other factions will
God.
work for that. Hence why I like the World Eaters a lot. But if you are about the, okay, what is the scientific progress we can make 40,000 years in the future? What is our potential? And how can we face the horrors of this galaxy with the power of, I mean, I want to, you're right, I want to say humanity, even though they're not human.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. They're they're horse people, or fish people is what
A lot of
people
people.
like to say. But like they're, I think for a new player, they're not really going to care that much, and to them, they might as well be humans, which is pretty easy to self-identify with.
Yeah.
And even if they're not humans, they're humanoids that don't have faces because they all have armor.
Yeah, and their society isn't just total war. They have planets of industry, they have gardens, they have homes, they have cities and parks.
That was the other thing too for me. Like I was thinking, like, what would I want to live in? Uh, Tao's kind of the only acceptable one.
I mean, as long as they don't get invaded, because who?
Yeah, or they castrate you or anything. But
Okay,
that's
that. There's no canon
I
indication
know
that they
that's
do
like the
that.
new Tao stuff. I don't like that either. I like
Stop
Tao being
that.
the good guys.
Okay. Yeah. You say New Tao. They've always done the sort of propaganda thing, but
Yeah, but now they're starting to be like gray, like they're good, but not really. I don't like it.
they. Well, I think that you know what. Really enough, I think that's another one of their strengths to a point. If
Okay.
if you are a society that you're going to war with other people, unfortunately in history we see you dehumanize the enemy, you
Mhm.
make propaganda to get people to enlist in your stuff. Maybe not to the Helldivers level, but definitely they definitely push the narrative of the Tau want the Tau Empire, the people that live there, to believe that they're doing the right thing. And
That's fair.
if a cadre of crisis suits ends up firebombing a imperial base, yeah, it's a war crime under the modern Geneva Convention, but they did it for progress. And there's a lot of that in some of the Tau books. Again, like the sequel to Crisis of Faith um, comes up with that a lot, where
Such a hard book name too,
Crisis of Faith
right?
goes hard, doesn't it?
It does.
It's about Farsight being disillusioned with the Tau Empire.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
It's really good. I don't know why. I think people mentioned the author who wrote it as someone who doesn't like the Tau. I disagree. It very made them look like a flawed people, but one that ultimately has best interests in heart. Except for the Ethereals. Fuck the Ethereals. They suck.
Well, yeah,
Everyone else is cool.
that's the bad part. Those the prophets of of the covenant.
See, you're a Halo enjoyer. I'm glad. I want to talk
That's the
about
other
that
thing
so
too.
bad.
Is like
I've been holding back.
It's like nobody has made this connection. How? No, I mean it's also like I feel like a lot of people who like Warhammer also like Halo, and if I just told you in words what the Tau were and didn't say, or like didn't show you anything, if it wasn't for the whole religious stuff, you would think it's the Covenant.
Yeah.
Um,
Imagine. Yeah, the Covenant is like, okay, if you want the religious zeal of killing infidels, that's what the Imperium is. If you want the collection of racists that are either bullied, hired, or genuinely joined the Empire, Covenant thing.
yep.
Because the Covenant aren't above, like, saying, hey, this world, it's ours now, you're going to join us. But,
Oh no, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I
But they
think there's
also hire
another.
people.
Oh, go ahead.
In Halo, the Jackals, they
Yeah, the
are
Jackals are
hired.
like mercenaries.
Yeah,
They're
they're
not
mercenaries hired by the
mercenaries, but
Covenant.
they're yeah,
Kind of similar to Kroot, though, don't they? Kind of got the same sort of vibe.
kinda. And then what is it? The Vespids or like the drones.
Yeah.
Uh huh. Fire Warriors would just, I guess, be elites, but not as fucking cool.
Sort of, yeah. And the and the brutes are just the humans with stupid
Smaller.
projectile weaponry. In the 41st
Um,
millennium, you use a gun that shoots bullets.
9mm, still kicking in 40,000 years.
Yeah, brother. Rome was built in a day, but this 9mm sure was.
I feel like it's canon that the 1911 is still being used.
Brother, I hope so.
Anyways, I have another idea as to why Tau is very popular.
Okay, so let's just break down what we've got so far and then
Okay,
and
go
with
ahead.
it. So we've got the hard sci-fi aesthetic, where if you're not really into the fantasy stuff, they scratch your itch. We've got the lore, the idea of being a nation of progress and hope in this dark time. What are you about to hit me with?
I think the other thing is painting them seems, and for all intents and purposes, is pretty easy compared to other armies.
Hot take.
Hot take?
There's a lot of flat panels, so if you want to use
Well,
shades,
I know,
or...
but here's what you're not
okay,
realizing.
I'm gonna let you go.
As a new player, you go in. Okay, let's grab a guardsman. Okay, let me grab this walker. Okay, this sentinel.
Yeah.
So you have fabric, you have skin tones, you have so many different types of metals. You have shading, highlighting, recess shading. You're gonna have to do like battle damage and stuff like that because it's the Imperium. But if you look at your default Tau paint scheme, it looks really simple. For the most part, it's 2 or 3 colors. And now, sure, painting flat panels is really hard unless you have an airbrush. As a new player, I didn't know that. I didn't know how hard it would be to paint a flat panel. So go ahead.
It's deceivingly bad because Space Marines also have a lot of panels, but they're often curved, and there are also smaller models. Crisis suits and riptides and stuff. It's a lot of flat stuff, but if you have panel liner, and by the way, panel liner is used a lot in the Gundam community.
Oh yeah, no, like just simple oil, perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um.
Oh, my OBS is dying.
Oh no, it's dying.
It's not responding.
Oh.
You know what? I ain't going to stop it. Hopefully, I'm gonna see how often it's gonna record, and then I'll see how this works. Oh boy.
Video gone.
Yeah, it's okay. I was about 20. All right, let's think again.
You should. I think everything should be fine because I should be probably about 20 minutes too.
Yes, but I don't know because it stopped responding. I don't know if it kept recording in that time. So.
It's okay. We'll just have I'll put in a commercial, even though we don't have commercials.
We gotta do it quick. 3, 2, 1, just in case. For me, little bro.
What do we gotta do?
Just do it. 3, 2, 1, sync. Simple as that.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1, sync.
Sync. All right. Cool. Just in case.
I'll record in a filler thing if we miss stuff.
All right. But you were talking about oh no, I was yapping.
How Tau is deceptively easy to paint.
Yes. So because they have so many flat surfaces, again, if you have a common like oil wash, you can use that just on the inside. But you're right. You can get away with 3 colors. 1 primary color for the main like suit panel parts. 1 either black or maybe like a dark iron if you want like joints and stuff. And if you want accent color for the weapons, for like blues or stuff like that, then you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Check general. I just sent Chaos Space Marines compared to Tau, and you tell me which one looks easier to paint.
Yeah, you're right. Ooh, that's something else about Tau. You know how they have all those panels, but they're square.
They are square.
They're rectangles.
Rectangles are easy to paint.
If you need to if you're learning how to edge highlight, because I'm gonna be real, if you're painting like a Space Marine shoulder pad, let's say,
it's I'm just now starting to be able to edge highlight.
How do you highlight a curved surface like a shoulder pad to make it look good?
You kind of just have to freehand it.
You could airbrush it, you could crosshatch it, you could dry brush it. There's many different ways, but you can't just run your brush over and be good. Because the Tau have lots of good, sharp edges, I think it makes it so if you paint like blue or purple or red or white's a little tough, but any of those colors and do a quick run of your brush, that edge highlighting becomes really easy.
I think in a lot of ways they're kind of like Space Marines in terms of painting progression. If you let's say you start with Tau, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you get your paints. You paint one or two guys. Maybe then you realize it's the wrong type of paints. You got to get them down paints. It slowly builds you up to be able to paint other stuff. You have kind of a little bit of everything, but nothing has to be done other than just putting paint onto it. Because you have your panel lining / recess shading, you have your edge highlighting, you have your, just your base colors. When you get up into, like your crisis suits, you could do some, like, plasma gun-esque effects. And I think that's the other thing, too, is, like, it's good to slowly get into painting miniatures. Because, like, before Warhammer, I've never painted any miniature, and Tau just looked like something easy to start learning on. And for a good part of it, it was. I mean, it helped me with a lot of new ways to paint.
Yeah, I think that they don't have a lot of, like, some of the fabric work and parchment work that you see in other
That's
models.
true. That's true. They really don't have any fabric other than, I guess, maybe their pants, but that's not really fabric.
Yeah, and that's only
black.
the infantry models,
Yeah.
But I do think you make a good point of they look easy to paint, and their visual identity is very, very strong.
No, it's
kind of their
kick
shit.
ass.
Yeah.
It's kick ass. It's like sci-fi. I don't want to say samurais, but they do have the large, like for the Fire Wars, they have the large samurai shoulder panel.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Shoulder pad.
Yeah.
They got Gundam.
They've done a lot of like Japan Tau comparisons when it comes to cultural influences. I mean, fucking Farsight's on a cherry blossom tree and his new base. Come on.
And he's doing the anime fight pose.
Yeah, he has a big sword. I mean, come on. And they're Gundams. Like, they are... If you're talking about mechs, they are definitely the Japanese-inspired, highly mobile jetpack mechs that you see in, like, Macross. I
think that's the other thing, too, is that... I think that's the other thing, too, is that there's... No other army has mechs for the most part. Yeah, you got dreadnoughts, but that's not the main portion of it. You got knights, but they're way too big.
Okay, they have different types of mechs. If you're looking for the mobile heavy infantry suits, you have like the Invictor Tactical War Suit, and you have Dreadnoughts and Space Marines. In Orcs, you have like Death Dreads and Morkanauts. Those are giant, stumpy walkers that are just guns on legs, just machines of brute and utter force.
But let's take Space Marines. How many times have you seen a mech-heavy Space Marine list? Of like specifically mechs, like dreadnoughts.
In competitive, quite a bit. See Black Templars Ironstorm players, you fucking pricks.
We're talking about new players.
No, it depends. Some people are really into that kind of thing, but honestly, if you're a vehicle head, you either go with, if you like anime, you do Tau, and if you like tanks, you play Guard. You don't play Space Marines for the Dreadnoughts unless you're already into Space Marines.
The War Thunder really hurt me when it came to Guard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get that. Ooh, you know what? Speaking of the mech thing, I think this is a point... No, I'm gonna hit you with one. One reason I think people also gravitate towards Tau, their play style and their sort of tactical plan, it fits what people think a range war game would be. It is... hyper-mobile, heavily movement and cover dependent, doing mostly shooting. In fact, almost always shooting.
And that's the other thing, too, is playing it, for the most part, it's pretty simple, is because you don't have to really worry about charging, you don't have to worry about psychic stuff, even though it's not existent anymore.
Yeah. you're
Now,
focused.
granted, that's not a great thing for a new player. As a new player, honestly, you probably should. It'd be better to be exposed to more stuff. But as a new player looking into getting into it, it's like, oh, I just got to move and shoot. Easy.
Yeah,
I can do that.
this is not saying that Tau is a good army for new players or the best to start with. Rather,
Oh yeah, that's not what this video is about.
it is rather why people are attracted to it. And Tau's playstyle is really simple to pick up. Hard to do really well in like a high level
Unless they're
environment.
busted this edition.
Huh?
I said unless they're busted that edition.
Oh, I remember 9th edition, don't you worry. But no,
I
they
joined after night.
oh yeah. The way they play is very apparent to how they look. And it's very much people are like, hey, I like using tactics and cover and stuff like a war game. Great. And then they learn that Warhammer is a lot more than that. It's often about counter charges and sacrificing units, and you can try and do the tactics based thing that you would do in like a skirmish game. But lots of tabletop Warhammer is fucking send it, you know? You will do some bold
I think-
things if you think you can secure it.
You mentioned something. It was one phrase in particular. It was like, then they learned that Warhammer is like much more like you were talking about gameplay, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's also applicable to Tau in terms of the lore. So, you're getting into Warhammer. Tau is very simple to understand. They don't have much lore. And for me, when I was looking at everything else, it seemed pretty stupid at first, right? But then when I was getting into it, and I was really diving into the lore, I'm like, holy shit, this stuff is so cool. Why am I not playing this army or this army? And I think that's why Tau was a good stepping stone for me, but it quickly fell out of favor for stuff with more heavier lore.
You know
so-
what? Let's do a quick comparison. You mentioned the Chaos Space Marines in terms of models too. If you look at that Chaos Space Marine box you showed me with a Hellbrute, a Master of Possession, and some Legionaries, and what seems like a Chosen or two.
Oh, there's so much lore-wise to unpack in that picture.
Yeah, but if you're a new person who looks at them, tell me, what does this army do? What's their thing?
They're
Are
evil. That's all I
Yeah.
can get,
Exactly. You know they're evil, but like, are they like mad magicians? Are they necromancers? Do they make these big machines like behind us? Do they? I mean, some of them have melee weapons, but they also have big chain guns. Like, what is the Chaos Space Marine thing? When you get into lore, you learn a little bit, but about how they play.
But that's not something
and
you can
what their
do
idea is.
in like a week or two. Realistically,
Yeah.
it's something where it's very slowly progressive. Of like, oh, there's this cool video. Oh, well, they succeeded from the Imperium, and it was because of different factors like this, and oh, they look like this now because of the warp, and that's stuff that is hard for a new player to get into. I would assume, and it was
like-
for me.
Yeah, many of them
It's
have
just so
loyalist
much.
legionary training, but some don't, and some ran with the original legions, and some were recruited, and some are really warp tainted, and others don't like it, and it's a whole thing. Tau, you look at them, you know what they're about. You generally know how they play. You know what their aesthetic is. You get it. You get that aha
it's-
of if you're a new player, if Tau are your thing, you will know that they're your thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
For
think
me,
I think they're just they're a nice and clean, simple army.
yeah. For me,
It's probably. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I keep.
I was
cutting
gonna
you
say, for me, I didn't know World Eaters were my thing until I really got into the lore. But orcs, I saw them, I knew they were my thing. Tau has that effect.
off. For me, I was wanting to be a Xenos player. I thought the Xenos were pretty cool, and then I was like, nah, the Imperium is fucking based.
Oh,
And then I
no.
went from Tau to Black Templars.
That is an absolutely wild
It is a
take.
whole 180.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, the greater good. We accept all races into our fold. Hey, what's your next
Abhor
army?
the witch.
Kill anything that's not me.
Death to the witch, the
So
alien, the heretic.
the mutants.
Ooh.
So I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on town. That's kind of what I wanted to do this video about. If like, it was something I noticed, and it's pretty important into my journey of Warhammer because I mean, I started with Tau. I have the bottom of my display shelf is a couple Farsight guys,
There you
including
go.
Farsight because Farsight was cool.
Understandable. All right. Any other things you noticed about Tau being often associated with not associated with new people, but that really draws new people in?
I don't know. I think the other part too of like why it's kind of a meme at this point is because a lot of people also don't like Tau. So when they hear that their little brother is starting Tau, they're like, no, 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 don't do that. They're gross.
And
That's
then
the
they
only other
say
thing. But I think that's just stupid. I think Tau are actually really cool.
they are, but if you play them in ninth edition, like around, I'm gonna say if you played Tau around, let's say January 2022, I think less of you as a person. That was a joke. That was a joke. I appreciate all of you equally. I had a
Just
hard
lost
time at a
one of our
tournament.
19 subscribers.
I just had a really hard time. And one of my friends plays Tau a lot, and he's like really competitive. I never won a game
Oh,
against him.
that's
Oh
gross.
yeah.
How
The
do you
only
think
time
I feel? How do you think I feel, Nick?
okay, listen, man. I played Cult of Speed against you, and you still lost. Skill issue.
Okay, you know what? It's
Yeah,
fine
you want a
until I send
rematch?
in
Yeah,
until I send in 15 Deathwing Knights.
that will change.
Oh
That
yeah.
will change things, bro. You
Oh yeah,
gotta,
I'm doing Dark Angels now.
yeah, you
So
gotta,
there's
you
that.
gotta get in our crusade, man. It'd be so
I
fun.
will.
Yeah.
Did we want to cover other armies? I don't think so. I think that could be a
Nah,
different video.
we got the
I think that'd be
theme.
like a longer video of like why you want to start each army.
Yeah. I think we covered the basics of. This is generally why people gravitate towards Tau. If you see this with other armies as well, like for example, we mentioned Tyranids as well. People really like that. Okay, don't cancel me. All right.
Oh God.
So Warhammer is a very male-dominated hobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not as many women play it, but I will say, out of the several women I've met who
You
play
you
Warhammer,
can't say the Tyranid women joke. You
it's
can't
not a
do it.
joke.
You can't do it.
What do you
You
mean?
can't do it. It may be an
Dude.
astute observation, and it may, for the most part, be practical, but you can't. You're making judgments.
Girls love girl dinner. There's something about Tyranids. I've known so
Bugs
many
just
women.
slay. I don't know. Bugs are
I know
sick.
so many women who got to Warhammer and they're like, no, in fact, you're like the bugs. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, but why? You know? I get it.
I don't know. Bugs are cool. I think
Yeah.
it's just bugs are cool.
In a
But,
world where everything is
I
big
mean,
man with guns, sometimes you just want girl dinner.
have I told you what my girlfriend's? I mean, not army is, but what minis she likes and collects?
What does V like?
Death Guard.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty sick.
Definitely not bugs.
That's pretty dope.
But yeah.
Alrighty. You know?
So even like with Tau, Tau's a pretty common starting army, but these are just kind of assumptions and stuff we see on when you go into your store, it's just something you kind of pick up on. It's not the rule.
Yep.
People start with totally different armies,
yeah.
but it's just something I noticed with Tau, and the Tyranids thing is, I mean, it's wrong to make assumptions and whatnot, but a lot of women do play Tyranids.
Yeah, I think that we could have a whole episode on just Warhammer stereotypes. If you play Tau, you're either someone who's just getting into the hobby and likes the Noah Bright thing of it, or you're a spiteful asshole who likes competitive.
You're a dick.
Or you're a dick. Same thing. If you play orcs, you're either stupid or the nicest guy alive.
You're just feeding your own ego at this point.
Listen, I'm a little bit of a dick, so I think I'm one of the dumb ones. If I'm dumb enough to spend money on Warhammer, I think that goes to show what kind of orc player I am.
I think we might have to do that for a future video of just Warhammer stereotypes.
That would be a great fun time. Nice
It would.
disclaimer in the front, seeing this is just generally the memes. What your mains.
Don't
Everyone
cancel
loves.
us.
Everyone loves what your main says about you. Everyone loves those videos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. As a For Honor
Alright.
player, I was on the receiving end of that a lot. So yeah, let's do it.
To wrap this video up, let's leave off on a fun note. What does Dark Angels say as your main? What is a
Ooh,
Dark Angels player to you?
you're edgy. Not edgy as a herder. I like to make racist jokes edgy, but like my dudes are all secretive.
I study
And
the blade.
they studied the blade, and we're going to hunt for the fallen because we're not just the Space Marines. We are those who have been
We're the
betrayed by our
best Space
brothers.
Marines. We're
We're the-
number one.
We're the first legion, and if you forget that, we will remind you over and over again. And we have more named characters than the Votan Codex has in total.
There's so many fucking named Dark Angels. we're just like lesser Ultramar at this point.
Yeah. Now you know how the Ultramarines feel.
Anyways, that's it. I thought this would be a fun, easy video to get into from vacation. If there's stuff you've noticed about Tau, or if you think we're wrong on any of these opinions or all of them, totally fine. Get a conversation going in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, our local scene is very different than other people's, man. Like we're mainly in our scene, we notice that a lot of new people gravitate towards Tau and a couple Tyranids as well. But if you find that your local scene has one faction that everyone's like, bam, this is the starting faction, then let us know, man. We'd like to learn more about it.
If it's gonna be some stupid like chaos is a starting army.
Hey, yo. I was gonna say Necrons are the starting army.
Fucking
It's not that
barbaric. Anyways, that's it from us. Oh wait. Oh my god, I didn't even do this. I didn't even do this announcement at the beginning of the video. We got new fucking art. So this whole video, there's been this new background of Hunter as a Necron, who's only been on for like 2 videos. I got to get him back on, and me as a Casterkin, and we got a new profile picture, I guess, or a banner, or logo. Yeah, logo that my girlfriend designed for us and drew up, and yeah. This is what I've been working on for a while. You got it commissioned, finally got it. We'll be getting some more stuff in the future. But I hate to ask for YouTube pleasantries, but it pushes me to get more cool stuff like this going. So I hope y'all like it. But that's it from us for this video. Should have another one next week.
All right. Take care. Brush your hair.